Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Sabrina. It is a beautiful snowy day here in southwestern Pennsylvania and I love it. But today I'm going to be making a pillow. A coworker asked me if I could turn a t-shirt into a pillow, and this t-shirt belonged to her son when he was younger. It was one of his most favorite t-shirts ever, she said. He could never take it off. But anyway, this is the t-shirt. And you can tell the little guy wore it a lot because somebody tried sewing it for him. You can see there. But, so yeah, I'm going to work on that today, and I'm going to take you guys along on the process. I'm kind of just doing it the way I feel I want to do it, or what makes sense to me. It's not necessarily, you know, the right way, wrong way, but this is the way I'm doing it. But, so you'll need a t-shirt or something like that, and you'll need some extra fabric. And she requested red, so I picked up some red fabric. And I'm going to use some SF101 PELLON interfacing. And that is the product I'm using right there. But this is going to add some stability to the t-shirt material, so it's not stretching when I'm sewing it. And it's also going to add some stability to the cotton fabric to kind of give the pillow some good structure. And then I am going to quilt the top of it, or front of it, and then it's going to be like an envelope style pillow. And then we'll also need a pillow insert of some kind. This is a 16-inch pillow I picked up from Joann's. So yeah, I'm going to use this. So I'm going to work in here today, and I'm going to enjoy the beautiful snow falling and take you guys along with the process. Here we go. Okay, so one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the t-shirt. I'm cutting off the sleeves, cutting off the bottom, and I'm going to trim across the top. Trim up here. There is a little hole right there, so I gotta try to get that hole out of there. But I still need enough room for a seam allowance to sew on the red fabric across the top, so I need to make sure I carefully cut this. Okay, so I found a piece already cut. I'm going to use it up. Now when you're using this interfacing, you want to make sure you're using the rough glue side against the wrong side of your fabric. So I'm going to cut this interfacing . Just about the size that I'm going to need. Alright, and I do use these pieces, these little ones. I like to do what I call Frankenstein it together, like all these little pieces. So if I'm working on a project that requires, it's not like a really important project, or you know, it's some kind of little craft project of some sort, I will use up all these little pieces and just kind of fuse them all together. Alright, so now we're going to press this on. Now instead of using a damp cloth, I just spritzed a little water on here. But I want to press it from the other side. The interfacing side, and we're gonna just hold this on like it said in the instructions. I did make this pressing board, if anyone is interested. It's just a piece of plywood with some batting and some home decor fabric stapled around it. It works pretty good for me. Okay, so we're going to square this up, and we want to make sure we have enough seam allowance around this edge, and enough around this edge, and enough around the bottom. Okay, so for the top and bottom, it's going to be a 16-inch, so I'm just kind of centering this. And I'll need at least 4.5 inches for the top and bottom. So I'm going to cut the fabric strip at, again, maybe 6 inches up here and 6 inches down here, so that I can get the full measurement I need. Alright, now what we need to do is go ahead and sew these sides on. I'm going to rough cut it and then square it up. Alright, so I need to interface these. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to interface this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the sides on like this. So I'm going to put right sides together, and I'm going to sew up this side, open it up, and then I'm going to put right sides together, so along this side, and then we'll open it up, and then I'll trim it from there. Okay, so I did sew that on, and I'm going to press this, and then I'm going to trim these edges down to line up with the blue t-shirt material. Okay, so now that we have these sides on, I'm now going to put the top on and put the bottom on. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We will be trimming that down. I just wanted to get that on, and then I'm going to quilt it. I'm going to put some batting on the back, and then I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so I have a piece of batting here, and to use up my scraps, You can see I zigzagged some pieces on to make it one big piece, but you can see right here I zigzagged, and then I added this on right here, added the piece on here. But this is a nice project that you can use up scraps on, and it'll look just as nice. Alright, so I'm going to use a piece of muslin on the back. So I'm going to cut a piece here about as wide as the this is. You can probably order it on Amazon if you needed to. So I'm just going to put this away. And what I'm going to do is quilt the muslin to the back of this pillow top. I'm not using any interfacing on it or anything. I'm going to put the batting on the back. Like that. I'm going to put this down. Put your batting down just like you would a quilt. We're going to put the top down. Now you can use basting spray if you want to keep your layers together. Let's see, I think I'm out of basting spray, so instead I think I'm going to use some pins to pin this in, pin these together. Make sure you're picking up all 3 layers. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Now I am gonna, like I said, I am quilting this, so you could draw marks on the fabric if you wanted to, where you want to quilt it. I'm gonna do just like a crosshatch kind of design. Maybe like a diamond shape. Okay, so what I did is I used my ruler to get the 45-degree angle, and then I laid the 45-degree angle across where this stitch line here is on the blue and red. And once I laid that across there and got my 45-degree mark, I put a piece of tape down along that edge. So there's my 45-degree line. And then all I did was take a piece of tape. And this is called diagonal seam tape. You can find it anywhere. I think I got this on Amazon, but this is what it's called. Washi tape, diagonal seam tape. And then that's going to be my guide once I put the first stitch down, because then I'm going to use this piece here, a seam guide, and I'm going to put that in my machine, and it fits right inside over here. And that's going to help guide me on where my next stitch line is going to go. So let's start down here. And I'm going to start sewing. I think I'm going to lengthen my stitch to like maybe a 2.7, 2.8. We'll go 2.8. Okay. Watch your pins. This should rip off. So, I'm going to use the seam guide here to decide how far apart I want these stitches. I'm not measuring, I'm just eyeballing it. You can measure, be more precise if you would like. So now I'm going to start up here. I'm going to place that seam guide on this stitch line. And I'm going to start sewing up here. Keeping the seam guide on that stitch that I just did. I'm going to move it over and follow this line. So now I'm going to do this side, and then I'll be back when it's done. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now I'm going to find the 45-degree angle the other way, and then I'm going to do the same step, cross-hatching this along the way. So we got 45 degrees this way. And I'm going to put a piece of that washi tape down right along that ruler there. Just like that. sure this is down. Now we're gonna go this way. Tear this off. Okay, so here it is. I have it done. And now we'll work on the back. Okay, so I have the backing pieces here. And I did interface them. I just kind of cut them about as wide as this piece here. And what I want to do now is I'm going to fold this down by 1 inch, press it, fold it over again, press it, and I'm going to sew a line down each side to hold this down. I'm going to do that on both pieces. Okay, so I'm gonna square this up to 16 by 16. And I know the pillow insert is 16 by 16, but that's okay because we're just gonna use a little bit of a seam allowance. We're gonna make it, the cover just a tad smaller so that the pillow fits nice and snug inside the pillowcase. So it's not slouching around inside of it. So what I did was I found the length of this blue piece because we want it centered in the pillow, and it's right around 12 inches. So I need 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on this side. So I'm going to go to the end of the blue here, and I am going to cut so that I have 2 inches over here. And now I'm going to do the other side. Okay. So now I need to do the bottom. So this piece here is right around 7 inches. So we'll need another 9 inches. So we'll do 4.5 on this side, 4.5 on this side. So I'm going to put the ruler down at 4.5. And now we're going to do this side. And I'm lining this ruler up with this blue line where the seam is. 4.5. Okay. Now we have a square pillow. So I'm going to take it up to about here, which is approximately 10 inches. Because this piece we want to overlap sort of in the middle right here. We're going to have this overlap this piece a few inches. So I'm going to cut this at 10 inches. So I'm going to line this up line up my seam here on one of these lines. going to straighten up the side. And then I'm going to do 16 inches over here, whatever the length of this is. Yeah, so we're at 16. Okay, so we got 16. Just wanted to be sure. Alright. And then we're going to cut it this way and straighten this up. And we decided 10 inches was where we wanted to be. So I'm going to line this up at the 10-inch mark. I'm gonna go 12 just in case, or 11 inches just in case. There we go. I can always cut down if I need to. And then so this is gonna be on here like this. And we want it up toward the top a little bit, like it is. Then this one we want sort of in the center. So we want about 8 inches up. So let's measure about 8 inches from the bottom. And it is at 8 inches. So we'll leave that like that. So we're cutting this one at 8 inches. So I'll put this down here like this, line this up. I'm going to straighten up this edge. I'm going to use this edge. And we're going to do 16. We're going to do 8 inches this way. There we go. Alright, so this will overlap in the middle here. It all worked out. So now we're going to sew it together. Now, to sew this together, I am going to actually pin this to the back, or I want to look at the back of this, and I want to pin it down. And I'm pinning wrong sides together, and you'll see why. And I'm going to sew on the top. That way we can hide our seams, our seam allowance on the inside. It'll kind of be encased. So I'm going to clip these together. And I'm going to sew around the edge, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Try to sew as close to the edge as you can. You can maybe even try to do 1/8. But we want to sew as close to the edge as we can with wrong sides together. Alright, okay, so we have it all sewn around the edges there. If it looks like there's any corners you can clip, go ahead and clip them. Any excess. Because we're going to turn this inside out. We want to push these seams nicely flat and maybe even press it. So I'm going to press these so that these seams are nice and flat. Okay, so I turned it inside out. You want to roll these seams and make sure they're nice and even. Okay, you want to make sure your corners are nice and even. So I pressed it so that these seams were rolled real nice. Now as you're sewing it, you want to make sure you keep them seams nice and even. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, that seam allowance is inside there. So now I'm going to sew just on the other side of that seam allowance. It'll make sort of like a piping so that when we flip it back around, that seam allowance will be encased inside there and you won't have to worry about anything fraying. So that's what I'm going to do now, is just sew around this edge. Okay, so I sewed all around the edge. Now we're going to flip this back around the right side. And let's hope it turns out good. Okay. There we go. I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go get the pillow insert and put it in. Okay, so another thing to watch for when you're doing this, after you sew the edges or sew the inside, is make sure that you did get all of your seam allowance encased in there and it's not sticking out around the edge. Or get rid of any little threads that might be sticking out around the edge. Alright, so let's put the pillow insert in. And I'm going to cut this off. Alright, let's get that in there. And like I said, I did want it just to be a little bit snug. I don't want the pillow floating around in there. And I didn't want the pillowcase to be real sloppy around the outside of it. So now if you wanted to, you could put some Velcro or something. Let me zoom out. You can put some Velcro or something right here to kind of help keep this closed, or a button. But there it is. Now if you didn't want these sharp corners like this, you could sew it differently and shear off that corner. Now I know some people do that. They'll measure in about a 1/2 inch and they'll sew along here 1/2 inch, and then they'll take a 1/2 inch this way, about 3 inches down in a 1/2 inch, and then about 3 inches down in a 1/2 inch. That'll cut these corners off so that they don't look like that. If that bothers you, some people, I guess it does bother them, but I think it turned out all in all very cute. I hope she likes it. I might do as I had suggested to you, is put a piece of Velcro right here. I have some iron-on Velcro that will help keep this closed, so I might do that. But I'm going to take this into her tomorrow to work, and I hope she likes it. Okay guys, well, I think that's done. I'm still trying to decide if I want to put Velcro on here to hold this down, but I think once the pillow gets relaxed, I don't think it'll be needed. So I've been kind of just squishing it down a little bit, pushing it in there. I think it'll be fine. But, alright, so there you go. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I'm not sure what I'll be working on next, but I think it was a rag quilt. Somebody asked if I could do a diagonal rag quilt, so that the blocks are diamond shape with half squares on the edges. So I'm going to give that a whirl, and I have another one that I did like that. So I think I'm going to do that probably next. But alright guys, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and please subscribe if you haven't. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers. If